Hello, chemists. Today we're going to be doing some unboxing and we're going to open up your tote for the first time and look at some equipment and also some of your chemicals that you're going to be working with. This is your safety video and also kind of how stuff works. So I'll talk about some of this stuff in class, but then also this is my summary in case you wanted to like review and see how things work. Okay, so first of all, the two pieces of equipment that we're going to be working with is this Blade 100 pocket scale. Really lucky that we were able to find a small scale that was able to actually read down to the 100th of a gram for a reasonable price. The ones that we have up at the school are like $400 each. It's crazy. Anyway, so trying to get to actually measure to the 100th of a gram. You notice I was careful. It's really important that you don't drop this. That's our big number one. Do not drop this scale. It ruins I can't remember what the little electronics in there, but anyway, it ruins it if you drop it. I'm going to set the box aside. It does have instructions. So if you want any instructions, there are instructions inside there. Please keep the box and the instructions for the kids next quarter in your tote. Okay, so you notice that it's got this case here that it goes inside to protect it. And now it's all protected. You can't accidentally squish the pressure plate. I'm going to put this off to the side. So you open it up like that, set it down. You can set that bigger tray aside. Those are trays for if you want to weigh things that are kind of bigger than the scale. You can use those as trays. And then this is the smaller tray is on the top that protects. This one will actually protect that pressure plate. So if you're not using the scale, it's nice to keep that on there because it will protect it from being overloaded. And that also can ruin the scale. So we're trying not to ruin the scale. No dropping and no putting too heavy of a thing on the scale. So let's get to that. That is this Blade 100 only is able to measure up to 100 grams. And I'd like you to think of like 100 grams is like an apple or something. You know, it's not that much. So this scale is really good at measuring small measurements, small amounts, which is what we're working with, really small amounts. I can't give you a lot of chemicals. So we're working with really small amounts, so I want you to be able to, so you only put those little things. Don't put anything really heavy on there. Even your like glass beaker would be kind of pushing it. I think it's still under 100 grams, but you can't put a whole lot more in it. If you had a full beaker, it would overload it for sure. So here you have your scale. You set it down, and then do you notice that you can't see any numbers on it? It's all packed away all nice. So what you do is you do this little push the button. Yeah, it's got a little spring-loaded thing, and then you have your screen there. You notice it is off. There's an on button right here. I'm not going to turn it on when it's sitting like this, but we go like this, and it's off, and then you turn it on, and you'll end up having this backlight. I will let you see the backlight there. And it's probably matte. No, it's not matte. It's still reading. So it should be able to read, and it should be in grams. That's the other thing. Look for the little G down underneath. It can read in all kinds of different measurements, but I need you to be in grams. It should be set in grams automatically. And then what I want you to do is look at it, and I can't show you this, but it should read 0. If it's not reading 0, something's wrong. So you should probably let me know, email me or something, let me know that if your scale is not reading 0. So it should be reading 0.00 even, and these scales are really great because they do that. They go down to the 100th of a gram. That's why I paid extra money for them, so that they do that. So, and then the other thing that I want you to remember is that when you're done with the scale, please turn it off so that that backlight isn't on. You may think that by squishing it closed again, it's off, but I found that it stays on in there, and then you waste the battery. And then I can't get you new batteries. So what I want you to do is make sure you turn it off and before you squish it back closed. Okay, so that's the scale. Every time you put something on the scale, it should be reading 0. Before you put something on there, it should be reading 0. You put something on there, and then it'll give you the weight. And the weight will be correct because Before you put something on, it was 0. You put it on there, and then it is what it's supposed to be. And oh, I paid extra money to get these things to read to the 100th of a gram rather than just the 10th of a gram. That extra 100th of a gram is worth money. So you need to write down that extra, 0.00. If it reads 0.30, write that extra 0 because you paid for it. Well, okay, I paid. The school paid for it. So that's you. Okay, so then the other piece of equipment we've got this thing, which is a graduated cylinder. You have 100 milliliter graduated cylinder. It's a little bigger, more like a foot or so. I said an imperial unit, and I shouldn't. Anyway, so there's a 100 milliliter graduated cylinder, and then there's this 10 milliliter graduated cylinder. We're going to be working with these smaller ones. Some of you have a little shorter one, these 10 milliliters that look a little different. I can't show you them because they're all they've already been taken out in totes. There's some of you might have some that are a little bit shorter and a little not as clear. They work just as fine, and they will work the same. In fact, some of you will be able to fit bigger pieces in those shorter ones. But either way, your graduated cylinder is a 10 milliliter graduated cylinder, and you can see there it says 10. And then I have a whole another PowerPoint that goes through how to read this thing. We're going to go through that in class, but I'll also leave the PowerPoint up so you can practice on your own how to read this thing to the 100th of a milliliter. So we're going to read to the 100th of a gram on this thing and the 100th of a milliliter on this one. And that's going to make it so that you can actually get some decent densities, some decent measurements of densities so that you can actually tell the difference between stuff. So measuring carefully gives you good measurements, and you'll actually be able to tell the difference. So now, hey folks, this is our last unboxing here. This is a conductivity meter. Let's see if you can see it this way. It's this conductivity meter. You open it up, and it should be pretty self-explanatory. It's got a battery and a little switch that says on and off. And it should be off when you pull it out of the container, but then switch it on. And then you notice it's got these two little copper probes and these two lights, and the lights tell you if something is conductive. That's all it is. So this is steel scissors. If I put the conductivity meter on the steel, it should light up if both the things are touching the metal. So if I'm not touching, or if just one of them is touching, let's see, make sure you can see that. If one of them touches, we don't have the light. If both of them touch, we have the light, and it gets really bright, which means that it is very conductive. So then when you're done with the conductivity meter, I would like you to turn it off so that you can put it away and it won't drain the battery. So make sure you turn it off when you put it away. And that is the conductivity meter. Now, at this point, you can open this bag, the one that has the ones that say element on them. And this is element number 5. And it's got a little piece of element. I don't know which element it is. Well, okay, I do, but you won't. You don't know which element this is, but you have the job of trying to figure out which element this is. You can now open up this element bag. Do not open any of the other bags, just this bag. And then the other thing that I want to point out, I'm going to dump them out so you can see them. You notice that I gave you a little empty bag. That's important because you're going to need it. And you're going to need it for 2 other labs as well, not just this one. So hold on to that empty bag. It is not garbage. So you might notice that we've got some elements here, and they've got this number down here at the bottom is for a lab in the future. I think it's lab number 5. I can't remember, but this is for a lab later on. You're just concerned about the things on the top. I would like to point out that this element here, element number 5, you will have a number here, something in milliliters. This one, it happens to be 0.05 milliliters. So because this is such a small amount of metal and it's kind of all I had, I didn't want to send much more. So because it's really hard to read that small amount of volume with this graduated cylinder, I told you the volume here. So you do not have to put it into the graduated cylinder to measure it. This one, though, you do have to. It doesn't have a volume on it. So this one, you have enough to get a decent volume of it with your graduated cylinder. So you can open this one and check it in the graduated cylinder. Heck, you could check this one, but it'll be just really hard to get, to read it that precisely. This one will also doesn't have the volume measurement, so that goes in the graduated cylinder. This one also goes in the graduated cylinder. This one, yeah, this one also goes in the graduated cylinder. It's going to be hard to get a good volume on that one because it is a small amount. It's all I had. This, okay, so now the tricky warning ones here. These are the weird ones. Everybody else is kind of normal. This one, do you notice I put a little red little X, the don't do it thing, little red don't do it at the top. Don't open this bag. It's just not worth it. So what I did, I don't want you to open the bag at all, but at least you can, see it and see some of its properties. You can get the mass of this element without opening the bag. I'll just give you a hint. This is my hint. You can get the mass of just the element inside this bag without the mass of the bag, without opening it. Maybe you can figure that out. Okay, if you can't figure it out, don't worry. Just ask me. I'll give you the hint. It's fine. So don't open this element number 8. I give you the volume as well, so you don't need to put it into the graduated cylinder to get the volume. I've already given you the volume. This one is weird. I gave you, I have 2 versions, 2 forms. There's 2 forms of this element number 3. It comes like this, and it also comes like this. They're both that element, but they're just different forms. And that sometimes we see that. They're called allotropes. Anyway, so we have 2 different allotropes of this element. And so this one you can open and get its get both its volume and its mass. I just figured I'd just, it's already packaged, so I just gave you the package. And then this is that same element, but a different form. Don't get the density of this one. It just is going to be a big mess. So don't, you don't need to open this up to find the density with the graduated cylinder. So no density needed on this one, but go ahead and get the density of this one, this number 3. So these are both number 3. Okay, and I think that's it, other than how to use this graduated cylinder, but I have another thing on that. Okay, those are all of the warnings and examples. Good luck. Okay, and then when you're all done with your experiment, I would like you to make sure that you can get all of your elements back in here because, well, we need them for next semester. So these same elements need to go on to those next that next group next semester. So please try to get all of the parts of the element in here. This one shouldn't be too hard. This one would be super hard to get all of it in there, so just don't take it out. This one we've agreed that you're not taking element 8 out of the thing at all, so that's fine. This one, you should be all right getting those 2 little bits back. Same thing here, just a couple little bits. Make sure you get all of them back. Don't lose any parts of this one, but just make sure you got all of the parts. In fact, one of the things you could do is use your trays to like store your chemicals, your elements while you're measuring them, and make sure you get all of them back into the bag. And then we get those back in the bag. This one you hardly even have to take out. And then that one's the same thing. This can be a little brittle and you might lose pieces, but just try to be careful. And same thing with those. Put everything back in the bag, including the empty bag. Seal it back up. You're going to need this. All of these elements are going to be needed for a future lab. Yeah, so put them all back in the bag. Put them back in your totes so they're ready to go. That guy's all ready to go. Dry it up and make sure that it doesn't have any water in it or any elements either, especially. put it back in your tote. And then this one, for sure, turn it off. Oops, I have it on there. Turn it off, close it up, put that little cap back on, nice and safe. Put it back in its little tray. It could be stored like this, but it's nice to just put it back in the box. But the big thing is I want it in these trays just to protect it from getting squished. We want no squishing and no dropping, but you've got that already. All right, back in the box. Everybody's ready to go back in the tote until next week, because we'll need all those things next week. All right, thanks a lot.